Lesson 286. What if you're running from the very thing God is using to save you? Have you ever wondered like life just keeps throwing obstacles in your way? That feeling when things aren't going the way you thought they would, and you start to wonder if maybe God is punishing you or testing you in some weird, mysterious way. But what if? What if those things you're running from, those moments of discomfort, pain, and resistance, are actually the very things God is using to save you? I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but hang with me for a moment. If you're like me, you've had your fair share of resistance, of wanting to take control and avoid the discomfort. But sometimes, the very thing we resist, the challenge, the situation, the person, the test, may be the doorway to the breakthrough we've been praying for. It's easy to think that if God is involved, everything would be smooth sailing, right? But real life, real spiritual growth, it often involves a little chaos and a lot of surrender. Let's dive into that and see what God is really doing behind the scenes when we think He's leading us into a storm. Stick around, because I think the answer might just blow your mind. Let's talk about surrender for a second. It's such a loaded word, isn't it? I mean, nobody likes to feel like they're losing control. We live in a world that constantly tells us to take charge, to plan ahead, to make our own destiny. But spiritually, God calls us to surrender. And I get it. Sometimes, surrender feels like giving up, like you're waving the white flag, saying, "I'm done, God, do whatever you want." But what if I told you that surrender is the beginning of freedom? The freedom to let go of your own plans, your own expectations, and allow God to step in and do something bigger than you could ever imagine. It's a scary thought because, let's be honest, we like our plans. We like being in control of how things unfold. But surrender isn't about being weak or passive. It's about trusting that God knows more than we do. And let's face it, He usually knows more than we're willing to admit. But here's the kicker. Sometimes, surrender comes with resistance. The very thing God is using to save you, to shape you, to mold you into the person you're meant to be, may feel like the thing you want to avoid the most. It's like a painful process that's somehow shaping you into someone stronger, more resilient, more dependent on Him. Let's think about Jonah for a moment. You know the story. Jonah, the prophet, was called by God to go to the city of Nineveh and deliver a message of repentance. God had a plan for Nineveh to be saved, and Jonah was supposed to be the messenger. But Jonah, feeling like this task was a bit too big and too dangerous, decided he'd rather run the other way. So, he jumped on a ship headed for Tarshish, far away from Nineveh. But here's the thing, Jonah wasn't just running from a task. He was running from God's purpose for his life. He was running from the very thing that God was using to bring about His own salvation and the salvation of an entire city. And we all know how that ended, right? A massive storm. Jonah gets swallowed by a giant fish. He's stuck in the belly of that fish for 3 days, and in the darkness, he finally comes to his senses. That storm, that fish, the discomfort, it was all part of God's plan. Jonah was running from what God was calling him to, but it was through that very resistance that God was saving him, refining him, and pushing him toward his destiny. Jonah's journey shows us that God doesn't always operate the way we expect. Sometimes, the very thing we try to run from is exactly what we need to embrace. Jonah 1:17, now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. You see, God wasn't punishing Jonah by sending the storm and the fish. He was rescuing him. He was teaching him, refining his character, showing him that running away from God's call only leads to more chaos. The storm wasn't there to destroy Jonah, it was there to save him. Now, let's bring this story into our own lives. What are you running from today? Is it a relationship that's testing your patience? A job that's requiring more of you than you feel you can give? Is it an issue with your health, finances, or faith that just won't seem to resolve? Sometimes, we resist these things because they don't fit into our neat little plans. But could it be that God is using these moments to refine us? Just like Jonah? It's not easy. I get it. But what if God is asking you to stop running and face the storm? What if the challenge you're avoiding is actually the vehicle that will bring you to the next phase of your spiritual growth? In 2 Corinthians 12:9, Paul talks about the thorn in his flesh. He asked God to remove it 3 times, but God responded, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul's resistance wasn't removed, but in that weakness, Paul found God's strength. Sometimes, the very things we think are weakening us are actually making us stronger. The discomfort, the pain, the moments when we want to walk away. It's in those moments that God is revealing His power in ways we can't see just yet. I know that surrendering isn't easy. It feels like you're losing something. But let me tell you something. When you surrender to God's plan, when you stop running and face the challenge, you're not losing anything. You're gaining everything. In Romans 8:28, we're reminded that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Even the hard stuff, the things that don't make sense, God is working it all for your good. It might not look like it right now, but I promise, His plans are always greater than our understanding. Sometimes we think God's plan is about comfort and ease, but His plan is about transformation. It's about changing you, shaping you, molding you into the person you were always meant to be. And sometimes, the only way to do that is through the storm. So, what if you're running from the very thing God is using to save you? What if that storm you're trying to escape from is the very thing that will lead you to your breakthrough? What if your greatest resistance is actually the doorway to the greatest transformation of your life? I want to challenge you today. Stop running. Stop resisting the discomfort, the trials, the things that are making you uncomfortable. Instead of trying to avoid them, lean into them. Embrace the challenge. Trust that God is doing something in your life that is bigger than you can see right now. Surrender. It's not about giving up. It's about giving in to God's perfect plan for your life. If you're going through something today that feels impossible, that feels like it's too much to handle, I encourage you to take a step back and ask yourself, could this be the very thing God is using to shape me, to save me, to make me more like Him? I want to leave you with this verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust Him, even when you don't understand. Surrender to Him, even when it's hard, because that very thing you're resisting might just be the thing that's saving you. Take a step of faith. Embrace what God is doing in your life, even when it's uncomfortable. He's working behind the scenes, and His plans for you are good. So, what's the next step for you? Are you ready to stop running and surrender to God's perfect plan for your life? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if this video spoke to you, make sure you share it and stay tuned so you don't miss out on more content like this. Let's walk this journey of surrender together. Until next time, God bless you.